Okay. So if you have a question, there's an area that's our question and answer area. If you can locate that and post your questions there, I will check that in maybe around 30 minutes or so, and then I'll check it again at the end. Okay. So put your questions there as opposed to the chat, because if there's a lot of chat, then I might not be able to see it. So that's one thing. I'm probably going to have one poll that I'd like for you to answer, and I'll probably do that towards the beginning. So if you'll check that and answer that for me, that will be great. Okay. So let's just see if there's anything else, any issues. Okay. So everything is good. Great. All right. And you will get a link to the replay for this webinar. And the title of this webinar is basically Develop This One Habit and Smooth Speech is Yours. So we're going to be talking about something that we call a keystone habit, And it's important for various reasons, and we'll talk about why. We'll talk about what this keystone habit is. It's a very important habit, and how it can help you. In fact, it's like the number one habit that can help you achieve smooth speech, as well as many other things in your life. Some of you have already heard me talk about this in other webinars and other videos. Just throughout the years, you've heard me talk about this, and it's because it's very, very important. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. As some of you know already, and hopefully all of you know this, but there may be some of you who are watching this replay, you'll remember that I stuttered for the vast majority of my life, more than 20 some years. So right now I'm 52. And so I stuttered all the way up until my mid to late 20s. So that's more than half my life I spent stuttering. Some of you probably will think, well, you didn't really stutter that bad, right? You couldn't have stuttered that bad. That's not true. There were times where I used to bite down on my tongue that I was trying to get things out. There were times where when no one was looking and I was on the phone, I would be moving my head like this to just try to get stuff out. So I used to do all that kind of stuff. My lips used to quiver when I was trying to say something, or blink my eyes. And maybe there's still some times when that happens, but those are all the kinds of things that I used to struggle with. So I started stuttering, sometimes first or second grade. I can remember having to do speech therapy and having it not work for me. It generally does work, especially for younger people. As people get older, it tends not to work as well, depending on the therapy, of course. So went through speech therapy, went through school. The one thing I hated to do was to read aloud. That's where I used to really get stuck. So there were times where I knew an answer, but wouldn't answer it. Things that I wanted to do, didn't do. You can imagine as a guy growing up, wanting to talk with a girl and not able to, but obviously I figured out a way to do that going through college. So social life was good, but could have been a lot better. College was good, could have been a lot better, and chose jobs sometimes based on my speech. But then I decided that I was going to challenge myself and I was going to take a job working. In fact, it was a pretty good job at that time coming out of college as a policy services representative, where I literally had to speak on the phone. And I did that on purpose to challenge myself, but it was still very challenging and difficult to force myself to be able to speak, and using all kinds of tricks and so forth, and sometimes having to hang up the phone because I couldn't say anything. So I used to come home with like headaches almost every day, just from the pressure and the stress of having to speak. Well, certainly it helped me to speak more fluently, but it was still very stressful. So one of the things that I discovered is that even though I was able to speak more fluently in some situations, I still had what we call the stuttering mindset. That is, I still felt like a stutterer. I still thought like a stutterer. And I didn't want to do that, but I didn't know how to get out of it. So you guys are very blessed and lucky in many ways, because there's lots of resources. There's the internet. Back when I was growing up, there wasn't the internet, or at least wasn't available to us. And when it did become available when I was in my 20s, there wasn't as much stuff on there, and it wasn't as easy to find. So you're lucky because there's lots of resources, and I know that you're trying to figure out which resources are actually worth my time and money, what actually works. I know that some of you are trying different things, and I want to encourage you to listen to this webinar because it's going to apply to not only Pro90D, but everything else that you may try or that you may do. Okay, that's how important this is. So you are here because you understand that, or at least I hope that you understand, or that you're coming into an understanding that it's habit that drives virtually everything else that we do. Because in the title, it says about this one habit, right? So what's this one habit? So some of you may think that the one habit that we're talking about has to do with something that's mechanical, like airflow. Some of us run out of air, or in certain speaking situations, higher pressure speaking situations, when you're speaking to people you don't know or whatever, you find that all of a sudden you begin to block, your air cuts off, you can't get started, or your speech gets very choppy. And so you're probably thinking that this one habit is something that's mechanical. So let me just write that down. You're probably thinking that this number one habit is, for many of you, you may think that it's something that's mechanical. Okay. And when I say mechanical, I'm talking about breathing. I'm talking about maintaining airflow. I'm talking about what maybe speech therapists call elongation or prolongation. I call it extending. I don't like those words, but it's basically the same thing. It's extending your words, or speaking with a rhythm, or inflecting, or any of those things. So you're probably thinking it's something mechanical like that. Now, the mechanics of speaking is very, very important. Absolutely important. Pro90D contains various, what I call skill sets, skills that focus on the mechanics of speaking. And we'll talk about why in just a moment. So we do focus on the mechanics of speaking. And you can find these mechanics in various programs around, right? People teach them in different ways. Our mechanics we call skills, but they're not skills just to help you overcome stuttering or stop stuttering. They're skills to help you become an excellent speaker. You'll hear me talk about this and why this differentiates Pro90D from other programs. So our mechanics will help you speak more fluently and more smoothly, but their goal is to help you become an excellent speaker. Why is that important? It's important because if you are an excellent speaker, if you're speaking smoothly and clearly and confidently, let's say 95% of the time, 97, 90, then that means you absolutely cannot be stuttering and blocking 50%, 20%, 10%, 60%, 70 or 80%, right? They're mutually exclusive. You can't have one and have the other one at the same time, right? You can't be speaking 95% smoothly, fluently, and confidently, and speaking 50% disfluently. You can't do, you can only speak 5% disfluently, or 3% or 2%. So when we focus on these skills, mechanics, absolutely, we can improve our speech. But that's not the number one habit that we're talking about. The number one habit that we're talking about here has to do with mindset, because it's mindset that drives the mechanics and everything else. It's mindset that drives mechanics. And we'll break this down a little more. So now I want you to listen to this, no matter what program you get into, I don't care if it's hypnotherapy. It doesn't matter if it's a 5-day program, a 3-week program, a 3-day program. It doesn't matter what Pro90D, it doesn't matter what program it is. It doesn't matter. Mindset is going to drive your success. It's going to drive your success. Now, there's a very, very small percentage of people that all they need to do is learn one thing and they're off. And that's it. That's all they needed. That's a very, very small percentage of people. With younger people, with kids, little children, 2, 3, they often outgrow it. So they don't really need anything. Sometimes they just need their parents to model good speech or to help them relax and slow down, and they'll outgrow it. Some children don't outgrow it. Okay. And that's unfortunate because then it begins to affect their personality and their decisions and their beliefs and their self-image and self-concept and self-esteem and all of those things. So mindset drives the mechanics. It drives your success. So what do we mean when we say mindset? What we're talking about is what you think. It's your habitual way of thinking, how you think about certain things in life. Here we're talking about how you think about speech, how you think about yourself as a speaker, how you think about different speaking situations. When I'm speaking to people I don't know, when I'm speaking with my family, when I'm speaking in another language, when I'm speaking in an interview, when I'm giving a presentation, when I'm speaking in front of a group. Does it right? There's these different speaking situations. When I'm ordering coffee, when I have to introduce myself or say my name. All of these situations and your experience in those situations have caused you to have a certain mindset about speech and about the way you speak and the way you perform. So your mindset has to do with the way that you speak or the way that you think and the way that you think about how you speak. So it's about the content of your thoughts, if you will, right? What you're thinking, how often you think it. You'll hear me talk about this, right? The frequency in which you think it and the duration, how long you actually think it, right? This kind of creates a mindset. And this drives the mechanics because if, for example, a person doesn't believe that they're ever able to overcome stuttering or become an excellent speaker, which is our goal, right? Not just to overcome stuttering. If they don't believe that they can do this, then what's going to happen is, and some of you will remember me saying this from 21 Steps, step 1. What's going to happen is they might try something. They might start in this program. As soon as they experience a dip or regression, or as soon as they get stuck, and they're going to say, that's not working again. It's not working. Let me go try this program. Depending on how good the marketing of that program is. Well, they have statistics, they have percentages, they have licensed speech therapists, they've got great testimonies. This has got to work. So then they go try that and they find it. Oh, great. All of a sudden they've experienced some success. Could be for days, it could be for weeks, could even be for months. And all of a sudden something happens and they hit a bump and their speech starts to regress. They start to doubt their progress and they start sliding back. They go, I'm stuck with this forever. There's really no way to cure this, right? And they go through these cycles, going through different programs, right? Different courses and training and tips and tricks. And it's all because of the mindset. So some people actually don't believe that they're ever really able to overcome it. And sometimes it's because of the bad experiences they've had, or they've seen some research that says it's permanent, but you can manage it. There's all these different reasons. Some people kind of believe that they can do something about it, but they believe that they should be able to do it quickly and easily, that I should be able to just use some tips, do some affirmations, focus on my airflow, whatever it is, focus on my breathing, and I should be able to overcome this, right? And when that happens, then we have people, like I said earlier, bouncing around from program to program, never really picking up any traction, Okay, so they'll go up because of the placebo effect, and then they'll come back down again, and then they'll want to get on another high, so they'll go to another program or watch another video, and this happens. So it's a cycle. Mindset drives everything. Remember, mindset drives everything. So some people have a mindset that they'll never really be able to overcome it, that they'll never really be able to become expert. Other people have a mindset that they can, but they need it to be quick and easy. So they're constantly looking for the fastest way. Now, there are some other people who may believe that they can do it, and that maybe it's not going to be that quick and easy, but that they can do it by themselves. I'm a do-it-yourself guy, so that's kind of the way I believe that. I'm going to try to do it by myself. But after a certain point, you realize that the people who are experts, who are really good at what they do, they've all had coaches or they have coaches, right? So while I encourage you to try, especially in this business, you want to try something first before you pay someone your money, your hard-earned money, thousands of dollars, or whatever it is. You should be able to try aspects of their approach, and you should be able to see, I can see that this can work for me, but I probably need some more accountability, some more feedback. I need to stay consistent. I need someone to kind of help me focus on what matters most. But you should be able to try it. So that's why I have so much free stuff out there. And we have an inexpensive kind of self-study course. So you can try this and you can see if Pro 90D will work for you. So there's people who are out there who say, yes, this can work for me, but I think I can do it by myself. And I'll tell you, the vast majority of people who are struggling with this, only a very, very small percentage of them can do it by themselves from beginning to end. The vast majority of people who are struggling with this need some kind of help along the way, some kind of help. And there's two main reasons, really three, but let's say two main reasons. One has to do with accountability and consistency. There's things that you and I need to do consistently to change our brains, right? To change our mindset and to help us develop the habits that we need, right? In order to speak well and to think well. There's things we need to do consistently, repetition. We need to repeat the same things. Remember, in the last webinar, I talked about Hebb's law, neurons that fire together, wire together. In order for you to make any kind of long-term permanent change in habits, thinking habits, and behavioral habits, speaking, you've got to fire those neurons, the neurons that represent the behavior or the thoughts, right? There's a group or groups of neurons that are firing together, that are representing the behavior or the thinking, the activity. You've got to fire them together long enough that they wire together, and therefore they will reflect the activities that you're doing, the thinking, the speaking, the acting, the playing, right? Whatever it is, okay? So we need that repetition. And often what we find is that people are not consistent in repeating the same behaviors, or they're not consistent in repeating the behaviors, that is, doing the practices or doing the things they need to do that are actually going to change their speech. They're just what I call technique driven. They're looking for, okay, if I just breathe this way, this is going to help. But breathing that way may not be enough to get you where you need to go. Or if I just inflect my voice this way, or if I just connect my words this way, or if I just think this way, right, then that's going to be enough. So what some people do is they'll watch videos, or they'll listen to audios, or they'll do this, or they'll do that, thinking and hoping that just those one or two things that they're doing is going to help them, but they may need more. They may need more. So what tends to happen is people need accountability to help them stay consistent, and people need feedback. We need feedback. We need people to tell us what we don't know. Often I'm talking to people and they'll say, so how am I doing? Right. And I'll say, okay, well, focus on this. I'll say, what? Well, I thought I was. No, you're not. Right. Or focus on doing this way. And say, okay, well, I thought I was supposed to do it this way. I was like, no, we need to actually do it this way. Oh, wow, great. Then they do it and they get the results. So what happens is we need feedback. We need someone to evaluate us and give us feedback, because there's things we simply can't see ourselves. Accountability to help us to be more consistent, feedback, and often we need people to keep us encouraged, because you are going to have dips. There are going to be times where you're going to have disfluencies, you're going to get stuck. And you may be doing everything you need to do, but it's simply the process of growing your brain, of retraining, rewiring your brain. You're going to go through that, and you may need someone just to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. Does this make sense? So when we're doing it on our own, We don't have that encouragement. So it's easy for us to give up because we get distracted and get discouraged. It's easy for us to be inconsistent. This is the big one because, again, we can get distracted by life, or we just don't feel like doing certain things. I don't feel like modeling, but I don't mind watching videos or listening to audios. So I'm not going to model. And modeling is the one thing that's going to help you get to where you need to go, right? Or, well, I don't feel like doing affirmations, but I'll watch the videos. Okay, maybe you have to do the affirmations. So you get where I'm going, that there's people that have a mindset that they just are going to do it on their own. And I'm not saying you can't, because you can. There are people that have, and there are people that will. The problem is that it often takes much, much, much longer. So if you're watching this and you want to accelerate your progress to smooth speech, to this transformation, then trust me, the fastest way is to work with someone one-on-one. Hopefully it's me, but it could be someone else. Okay, so what I'm sharing with you today is going to help you with whatever program you decide, but the fastest way is you want to work with someone one-on-one, and hopefully what they're coaching you in is an effective program. It's an effective system that's complete, that focuses not just on the mechanics, on breathing, or not just on the mindset, the mental, on affirmations, on visualizations. Those are both very important, but they have to go together. Quite frankly, the most important one is the mindset. So let's talk about what we said earlier. What is this number one habit? Well, it has to do definitely with mindset, right? This number one habit is what we call self-talk, but not just any kind of self-talk. It's constructive self-talk. So when I say constructive self-talk, I'm going to do a little poll here. Go ahead and share with me. Hey, Anthony, how are you? Good to see you. I'm glad you're here, Anthony, because I actually have your review that I want to share today. But I'm going to post a poll, and I want you guys to also respond. You can respond to this in the chat room. Respond to me what you believe to be your definition, if you will, of constructive. When I say constructive self-talk, what do you think that means? Go ahead and type that into the chat box. And I'm going to see if I can post this poll that I want you guys to answer for me. Okay, so hopefully this poll has been published. Do you consciously and regularly practice self-talk? When I say practice, I mean do it. Do you consciously and regularly talk to yourself? It's kind of a trick question, but not, right? And I'll tell you why it could be construed as a trick question, but the way that I'm posing it, I'm trying to find out a certain answer, and we'll talk about it as soon as people respond to it. Do you consciously and regularly practice self-talk? So one person, yes. Two people, no. Okay, so I'll let you guys go ahead and continue to respond to that. So if you're able to do this, go ahead and tell me what you believe to be constructive self-talk. While you're doing that, I'm going to just go ahead and get back to sharing with you what I mean, but please do type in your answers. When we're talking about constructive self-talk and why it's so important, it's because everything you do is going to be driven initially by how you think, the content of your thoughts, how often you think them, the frequency, and the duration, how long you're able to hold those thoughts in your mind. So therefore, when it comes to speaking smoothly, there are certain things that you're going to have to remind yourself to do on a moment-to-moment basis every single day, every single time you speak. And if you don't, you will automatically default to the way you normally think or feel. You'll automatically default to the way you normally speak. Let me say that again. If you want to speak smoothly and clearly and confidently, and Pro 90D is for professionals or professionally minded people who want to speak smoothly, clearly and confidently, calmly, right? And they want to do that so that they're free to say what they want to say, when they want to say it, the way they want to say it. Pro 90D is for professionals who want to become excellent speakers. It's really not designed for people who just want to overcome stuttering. So if you are watching this, or if you're in this webinar and all you want to do is I just want to kind of get rid of the stuttering, Pro 90D is going to require more of you, and you're not going to have the incentive or motivation to do what's required. Okay. There are lots of other programs out there that can probably just help you manage or overcome stuttering. Pro 90D is for people who are ambitious and are aspiring to become excellent speakers. You have to do the work anyway, and it's far easier, really easier to become an excellent speaker than to just not stutter. Okay. So the one thing that you must have control over, that you must consciously do, is you must practice constructive self-talk. Now, why do I call this a keystone habit? It's called a keystone habit. Keystone habit. So you can look that up on the internet. So a keystone habit is one habit that can affect and can help you develop other habits. So it's usually one good habit that can then spill over into and help you develop other great habits. And self-talk is one of those habits that when you develop it, when you teach yourself and you practice talking to yourself as consciously, not necessarily aloud, but being aware that you're thinking and what you're thinking. Okay, I'm thinking right now, and this is what I'm thinking, right? So you're aware of that. When you become consciously aware of it, then you're able to direct your train of thinking. Okay, I want to think this way. I want to think this way. Then that can not only impact your speech, but it can impact virtually every other area of your life. Every other area. It can impact your education, your school, whether you study. It can impact your relationships, how you relate to people. It can impact your confidence. It can impact how you do at work, how you handle things, how you handle stress, how you handle anxiety, how you handle argument. It can handle how you drive. Everything can be impacted. It can handle your exercise and how you look and feel. It can handle your spirituality. Everything can be impacted and affected by constructive self-talk. Now, why did I use the word constructive? Because there's also something we call destructive or negative. So we could say positive or negative. Constructive is something that builds up, it constructs, so it builds you up, as opposed to destructive or negative, something that tears you down. So the reason that poll was kind of a trick question is because whether you know it or not, you are constantly talking to yourself. You just may not be aware of what you're saying, right? Of what you're thinking. Here's an example. Sometimes when we tell people to tell themselves in the speaking situation to relax and slow down, so I don't have time for that. I just have to think about what I want to say and getting it out as quickly as possible, or even as smoothly as possible. I just need to get it out. I have time to talking to myself. But that same person will tell you, well, yeah, I started thinking about or anticipating, oh, here comes this word. I'm going to get stuck on that. Or, oh, I wonder what will happen if I get stuck and what they'll think of me. Or they're looking at me a little strange. I wonder if it's because I'm speaking too slow or fast, or can they understand? What are they doing? They're talking to themselves, and it's destructive. It's negative. Does this make sense? So whether you know it or not, you are constantly talking to yourself. You just may not be aware of it. And there's a good chance that much of that self-talk is destructive and not constructive. So what we want you to do is to be able to control what we call your train of thinking. I did a whole series on self-talk. I want you to control your train of thinking and make sure that it's constructive, that it's you're saying to yourself what you want to say, what you need to say, what you need to hear in that moment. And I'm going to give you a very, very practical example of this in a moment. So let me just check back in here and see what we got here. Let me just check the poll first of all. Okay, so we got 3 yes. Great. Okay, so we went up, and 2 no. If you guys can still see that poll, go ahead and continue to answer. So Thomas, Constructive self-talk to me means provide affirmation and positive reinforcement for a situation or thing and identify improvement areas in the plan to achieve. Yes. So absolutely. So you're providing positive affirmations. It's positive reinforcement. You're saying, okay, here's situation, here's what happened, or here's what I need to do, right? Very good, very good. What else? What else sticks up to most guys? Okay, so let's see. Let's continue on. Let's continue on. Keystone Habit. So I hope you understand why constructive self-talk is a keystone habit. It's keystone, sometimes I'll call it cornerstone, because it's very important and it can impact and can help you build other important habits in your life. In this case, we're talking about mostly speech, right? So what you want to be able to do is be aware of what you're saying from moment to moment and control what you're saying from moment to moment, okay? Because if you don't consciously control, at least for now, what you're thinking, you will fall into what we call default thinking. And default thinking is usually negative and destructive. It's you start anticipating, you start doubting, you start fearing, you start avoiding, you start saying negative things about yourself or about your ability to speak well. Okay. So that's why this is so important. You may start saying, oh, this isn't working, or, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to do this, or, oh, I tried that and that's not working. So all those things are negative. What we want to do is practice constructive self-talk. So let me give you an example of something that you've heard me say before. And all of these things, it's nothing new. It's nothing new, but sometimes we have to hear it over and over and sometimes in different ways. I'm going to give you an example of something that you can say to yourself that's constructive, and you can repeat this to yourself. Now, please be mindful. What I'm sharing with you now and what I share with you in any webinar, on any one video, is not the entire Pro 90D speech system. So when you try this stuff, just understand that you're just trying one thing. You're trying one thing. But you can often try this one thing and it can make a pretty significant difference. And you can see, wow, this works. If I'm consistent and I add these other components, imagine what I can do. Okay. So this one thing may be very important and you may experience some great results. But remember, it's only one thing. It's only one part of the system. Even if I shared the whole system with you, you still need to apply it consistently, and you need to know which parts to focus on, okay? And there's no way that I could do that via video, even via our programs. No way that I could customize it for you. The only way I can do that is through personal coaching. Now, I know some of you are going to say, okay, you're just trying to sell us on the one-on-one coaching. And I've said this in videos before, and I just want you to think about this logically. Those of you that are in business would know this, that for me, it would be more profitable and even easier if people just bought the self-study, right? Because it's scalable. I mean, if thousands and thousands of people have bought my self-study over the years, over a decade, but if tens of thousands of people just bought the self-study, that would be easier for me and I could reach more people. And I do want people to get the self-study because the information is there. Everything you need is there. But here's what I found. Because my values are that I want to see people get results. In fact, I'll tell you this. My very first client and his father, some of you have heard the story before, and I won't tell you the whole story, but they hired me. They were my first clients. They literally hired me to fly to India and stay with them. They're multimillionaires, multiple businesses, doctors. They could have hired anyone, literally anyone. And they looked at Tony Robbins. They hired me, flew me over. I stayed with them. And the father told me, if you want to really help people, videos and self-studies is not really going to do it to the degree that you want. You need to be knee to knee, working with people one-on-one. Or train other people to do it, right? And he said, that's the way you're going to help people. I didn't really want to do it. I didn't really want to do it back then. This was like 7 years ago. But he was right. If I wanted to see people, if I wanted to help more people be successful, right, in their speech journey, What I had to do was to work with them one-on-one. It's much more difficult. It takes much more time, and I can help much less people, right? So for those of you that think when I'm encouraging you to do the coaching, if you think, oh, it's just because he wants us to do the coaching so he can make money, trust me, I would make more money encouraging more people to do the self-study. I'm encouraging people to do the coaching because year after year after year, I find that it's the coaching that helps people get the funds. And I'm going to share with you a review by a guy who's here right now. And if he's still here, he can actually answer your questions, right? Where is he? If you're still here, Anthony, just let us know. Say, hey, I'm still here. And I'm just going to be sharing in a little bit your written review. Anthony can tell you, because he had been working on his own for a while, and he can tell you is the coaching that relatively quickly took him to a whole nother level with his speech. Okay. So let me give you this very, very simple example. And I'm going to give it to you in multiple ways. Again, you've heard this before, but I want you to take this example, take what you're learning today and apply it. And I'll tell you how to apply it. So here it is. The example that I'm going to give you is basically, it's more than an affirmation. It's something that you can say to yourself, right? Which is in a sense affirmation, but you don't have to say it the same exact way every time. So here it is. It's very, very simple. What you want to begin to say to yourself throughout the day is something like, relax, slow down. I don't have to rush. I can take my time and say what I want to say the way I want to say it, right? And you can say a combination of that. You can turn it around. You can leave out a couple of words here and there, but essentially it's just relax, slow down. You don't have to rush. You can say, I don't have to rush. You can use the word you or I. Both are very effective. You don't have to rush. I don't have to rush. I can take my time and say what I want to say the way I want to say it, right? Now, here's another one that's related to that. Let's say you're talking to someone in authority, or you're giving a presentation, your boss is in there or whatever. That can change the dynamics. You can say, I don't really care who he is or who she is or who's here. I don't have to rush. I can take my time and say what I want to say the way I want to say it. Or you can say, I don't care who they are. I'm going to say what I want to say the way I want to say it. I don't care who they are. I don't care who this is. I don't care who he is or who she is. I can take my time and say what I want to say the way I want to say it. I will take my time and say what I want to say the way I want to say it. What this does, this is a very, very powerful statement. You don't say that aloud. I don't really care who you are. I'm going to just take my time. Right? You don't say that aloud. But the reason that you say this, and this absolutely works, and there's just studies that have shown that things like this work. What you're doing is you're diminishing the importance of that person. You can do the same thing for a situation. You're diminishing the importance of that person or those people. Sometimes we overestimate, we blow up the importance of someone, and it causes us to become distracted, to anticipate, to become very anxious, and to lose our flow. Okay. So when you bring it back down again and you say, I don't really care, I can take my time and say what I want the way I want to say it. You take control. And we've talked about the law of control, that when you have control, or when you feel like you have control, you feel more confident. And often you can feel more relaxed. You feel more empowered. You feel more in control. You're able to then perform better. So when you feel like you're in control, when you take control, you're able to perform better. You feel more confident. So by making the statement, you're simply taking back control of the situation and of how you're speaking and performing in that situation. If you don't say that and you simply operate on default, operate by default, then you will respond and react the way you usually do. You'll start anticipating, you'll start getting anxious and nervous, you'll start thinking about them and their authority, even if it's on a subconscious level, and what can happen and I want to make sure I impress them. And that will take over, and that will interfere with your flow, with your performance. This happens to athletes. It happens to leaders. It happens to everyone. It can happen to any of us at some point if we get distracted. So what you want to do is take control by saying, I don't really care who they are. You're not saying it in a nasty way or bad. You just, I don't really care. I can take my time and say what I want the way that I want. So that's one. The other one is just relax, slow down, take your time. Just relax, slow down. You don't have to rush. You can take your time and say what you want to say. So any combination of this. So notice it's not just a strict affirmation. It's you saying what you want to say. It's you talking to yourself constructively. Okay? Keystone habit. Keystone habit. The self-talk is far more important than what you may realize. You may want something that gives you quick results. Give me some airflow. Give me this technique. Give me that technique. If you do that, and if you focus on tips and tricks and techniques, tips and tricks are great. They're great. But if that's all you focus on and that's all you're looking for, and if all you're looking for are mechanics, you're going to constantly be what I call technique driven, maybe even for the rest of your life. What has to happen, there has to be a transformation of the mindset. The mechanics are important, absolutely. Pro 90D includes and has a heavy focus on mechanics, but mindset drives everything else. So you have to remember, first of all, that you are thinking, okay, I'm in a speaking situation right now. What am I thinking to? What am I saying to myself? What am I saying to myself? And you'll get to a point where you're confident and you're composed and you don't have to say anything. So when I'm speaking to a group, generally speaking, I don't have to say anything. Now, there's been times where I've been a little nervous and I just needed to relax and needed to take some breaths, right? But I don't have to say a whole lot to myself now because I've had thousands and thousands of speaking opportunities and I've created a habit of thinking and responding and speaking in a certain way. Where you're at now, you're going to have to develop this habit of focusing and shifting your mindset so that you are thinking the things that you want to think in that moment. You absolutely must do this, right? The content, you have to constantly and consistently think those things over and over. The frequency, right? The frequency, you have to think them over and over because one time is not enough. I've had people say that they were in a conversation or in a meeting and they had to remind themselves maybe 50 times just to relax and slow down, relax and slow down 50 times or more in one conversation. Well, you're not going to have to do that forever. Eventually, your brain's going to get it. It's going to wire that in, and you're going to be relaxed and you won't have to say that. But you got to be able to repeat it, right? So it's the content of what you're thinking, the frequency, how often are you thinking it, and the duration, how long are you thinking it, right? Are you thinking it just for 1 minute? Or are you thinking it the whole time in between? That's important. So here's what I want you to do. What I'd like for you to do is to take those constructive self-talks, those affirmations, you can call them that. Take that and practice that starting today. Start first. So the first thing, let me just switch over to my page here. First thing is become aware that you're thinking and what you're thinking. Okay? First things become aware. And then the next thing that you're going to do is to change what you're thinking. Okay? So here's what I'd like for you to do. You can do it for the next day, next couple of days, few days, week. Become aware that you're thinking. Oh, wow. What am I thinking right now? Right? So it's really become aware that you're thinking and what you're thinking, right? So you say, okay, wow, I'm actually thinking right now. Or you might say, oh, wait a minute. I wasn't even thinking back then. I wasn't even thinking about what I was doing or how I was feeling or whatever. So you become aware that you're thinking and then the content, what you're thinking. So start becoming aware. You're raising thinking to your consciousness, okay? The next thing is you're going to start to change, to substitute what you're thinking. You're going to change it. You're going to substitute it. And then I want you to practice that every day. Remember, in any given conversation, you may have to do it 20 times, 50 times, 100 times, over and over and over, constantly repeating what it is you want to think, how you want to perform, or whatever. And I've given you some examples, so go back and listen to this. Now, what I'd like to do now is I'm just going to share with you something that a gentleman who's actually here. And the funny thing is I didn't actually ask him to show up today, and I'm so glad that he did, if he's still here, because he may need to work, because he's a graphic designer, is into graphic design. So hopefully you can see this. I'm just going to leave it there for a little bit for you. Yeah. And so I worked with Anthony several months ago, and you can see here that, very, very typical, often fearful of certain speaking situations, tried to figure it out on his own. People, he says here, people would tell him to accept his fate as a stutterer, right? Because sometimes you go to speech therapy, you try this program, that program, we talked about that. Something works for a little while or it doesn't work. You say, okay, there's probably nothing out there. And so finally, he stumbled across Pro 90D. And what attracted him apparently was that we dealt with mindset. We dealt with mindset, but not just mindset, also mechanics, but we dealt with the mindset. There's a strong component of Pro 90D that deals with transforming your mindset. When I say mindset, I'm not just talking about how you think. I'm also talking about your identity, your speaking identity, who you see yourself as a speaker. Okay, so this is very important. How do you see yourself as a speaker? So we deal with that. We deal with that. And so Anthony found this, and he says after taking this, he's grown by leaps and bounds, and he can taste freedom. Now, that's a very important word that he uses here. He can taste freedom. So just imagine how it's going to feel to you when you're free to just raise your hand, speak up, to do a presentation, to accept this responsibility. There may be some nervousness or anxiousness a little bit, but you'll be able to handle it. You have the tools, and you're slowly starting to see yourself as becoming an excellent speaker. Remember, I said this in the beginning. Pro 90D is for those of you who are professional or professionally minded, who want to speak smoothly, clearly, and confidently. You want to become excellent speakers so that you can say what you want, when you want, wherever you want, however you want, right? Excellent speakers, not just people who want to stop stuttering. That's a big difference. You're not, if you just want to stop stuttering, you're probably not going to have the incentive to do what Pro 90D requires. So don't even waste your time or money. Can it help you? Yeah, sure, it can. But you're probably not going to have the incentive to do everything. So this is for those of you that are ambitious, right? You're aspiring because you have something to say. You have something to offer the world. You have great potential and you know it. And the only thing holding you back is your speech. That's it. Maybe even you're even a confident person, except for when it comes to speaking, or except for when it comes to speaking in certain situations. So we've got to remove this block, got to fix this one thing, and everything else is going to fall into place. So what Anthony realized is that his identity is starting to shift and change. And now he's starting to, in fact, he says here that he even enjoys, he looks forward to speaking, looks forward to his speaking situations. Many, many clients I have are saying now that they enjoy, they're looking forward to it. So not only are they enjoying it, but people are enjoying talking to them. You want it to be such that when you speak, people listen. When you speak, people listen, and they love to listen. They love to hear you speak. You can get there, but it's going to take some effort, and it's going to take a little bit of time. It's going to take some work. And here's the thing. There are programs out there that promise you that you can get to certain levels within a few days, a few weeks, 5 days, 3 weeks. My program says 90 days. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to depend on how much work you put in. The reason Pro 90D is different is because, first of all, generally speaking, I'm working with you for a longer period of time. And you're going to go through a cycle. Initially, you're going to experience a boost of confidence. Call this the placebo effect. You're going to have great hope, confidence. You're going to probably see great improvement in your speech in almost any program. But then what's going to happen is you're going to hit a bump. Something's going to happen. You're going to experience some disfluencies, and people come back down again. And that's when they get discouraged, and that's when they move on to other programs, right? What happens is with Pro 90D, we stick with you. We understand this cycle. We understand this is going to happen. It's going to happen to everyone to one degree or another. Just depends on how long you stay in this dip. So we build in a strategy to help you stay in there and come back up. Come back up and come back up and come back up and come back until you are now in a position really to be your own speech coach in a sense where you can continue. Now, people say, do I have to keep practicing for the rest of my life? Well, here's the good thing. Yes and no. And here's what I mean. For those of you that have done Pro 90D before, you may have heard me say, every time you speak is practice time. Every time you open your mouth, it's a practice opportunity. Because if you see it that way, then you'll constantly be looking at how can I improve my speech now? How can I take advantage of this conversation, this presentation? I have a speaking engagement coming up Friday. Love it. Looking forward to it, right? This is an opportunity for me to improve my speech, to continue to shore up my confidence, right? So we build that in so that you just keep getting better and better. Brian Tracy said, someone asked, well, how can I become a great speaker, a great presenter? And here's what he said. He doesn't do anything with stuttering, but here's what he said. He said, well, if you want to become a great speaker, then you have to speak and 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 speak, right? You get the idea. So if you want to become an excellent speaker and you want to overcome stuttering and become an excellent speaker, then you have to speak and speak and speak and speak and speak, right? So the practice then goes from more formal practice to sitting down, watching and practicing, to you're just getting out there speaking and seeing every speaking situation as an opportunity to practice. It's practice time, right? When you do that, then yeah, you'll be practicing the rest of your life, but you won't have to sit down and practice formally unless you want to up-level your skill, okay? So hear me when I say that. You don't have to practice for the rest of your life, but initially you will have to practice more intensively than you need to do eventually. The next thing that I want to share with you is that the time's going to pass anyway. So people who work with me for more than 3 months, 4, 6, a year, I have a handful of people that work with me for 4, 6 months or a year. What happens is I'm there with them to go through this cycle, right? And so they're far more successful than people who do it on their own, right? And here's what you have to remember. So well, I want to get this done as quickly as possible. Well, this is the fastest and the easiest way. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year is going to pass anyway. Think back 3 months ago. You probably was at one of my webinars. Think back 6 months ago, a year ago. I know people out there they've been with me in terms of webinars and videos and things like that for a year, for 2 years, for longer. And sometimes their speech simply hasn't improved to the degree that it could have had we worked together. I've talked to people, some recently, who a year ago they had the money. They had the money to do the coaching and they spent it on something else. Now they're in the same spot. Now they need to be able to speak well to move to another level. So it's not about the money for me. And I say it's not about the money. It doesn't mean that this isn't a business. This is a business. Businesses need income. But as I said before, I'm not trying to push you into coaching. It's that coaching is going to be the fastest, easiest, best way for you to get to where you want. Otherwise, I'd love to just sell self-studies. That being said, some of you don't have the money for coaching, or maybe you're not quite ready for coaching, then I encourage you to take a look at the self-study. At least take that step. And what will happen is if you decide to do the self-study, to kind of give this a try, then if you decide, okay, I've done this for about 30 days, I'm seeing this is working, this will work for me, this is going to help me, I'm a professional, I need to be able to speak well, this is going to get me to where I need to go, I want to do the coaching, I'll credit you the full amount of the self-study towards the coaching. So I'm going to just simply share with you a couple of links here that hopefully will work. And give me just a moment here as I share this, and then I'll take any questions. I just need to check my schedule here. And we'll be wrapping up shortly. Okay, so one of these is going to be for, excuse me, for those of you who want to meet with me for a free consultation. Okay. All right, so when you click that button, that's going to be for you to meet with me for a free consultation. I'm also going to put another link in the chat, and that one's going to be for the self-study. Okay, and I'll put that in there. So for those of you that want to set up a free consultation with me, a free conversation, so we can talk about how to take your speech to the next level as quickly as possible, then you want to go ahead and click the button, I'm ready to book my free consultation. Click that now and book. Starting to fill up. It's no joke. Things obviously start to pick up after the summer. So I only have a limited amount of time, obviously, right? And so we only have a limited number of seats. So if this is something that you want to do, you have interviews coming up or meetings, presentations, and you want to improve your speech as quickly as possible, then you need to start now. Working with me is going to get you there faster. If you really want to do it, you need to see this as an investment, not a cost. I've had people who have earned thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars more in a short period of time by taking your speech to the next level. You already know this, right? You take your speech up, your communication gets better, and you're able to earn more. You're able to get those jobs you want. You're able to impress your supervisors, managers. So book your consultation with me. You should only do this, though, if you're a professional and you're ready now. Not 6 months from now, not a year from now. Book it later. If you're ready now, but you need to talk to me first and you want to get some information, you want to get some questions answered, book your consultation. We'll answer your questions, and I'll tell you exactly what you need to do, okay? I'm going to put this next link right here in the chat box for you. This is for the self-study. So for those of you, oh, okay, Myra's already done it. Great. All right. Just going to look back here. Going to see if there's any questions that need to be answered. So let's wrap this up quickly. I've got like 1 minute, really. Got 1 minute. What you want to do, the one habit that can get you to smooth speech is constructive self-talk. All right. That's what drives everything. It has to do with the mindset. So what I want you to do is go back, listen to this webinar, and take those affirmations, those self-talks that I gave you, and practice them on a daily basis. First thing you're going to do is become aware that you're thinking, what you're thinking. Second thing you're going to do is you're going to begin to change what you're thinking and use those affirmations, use those self-talks. And you're going to do it on a regular basis. Do it for the next week or so, and then report back to me and share with me how you're feeling and how your speech is going. Just remember, it's one component of Pro 90D. It's not everything, okay? But it's an important component. So thank you so much for being here. Let me just, if you're finally ready to stop worrying about stuttering, you're finally ready to overcome that stuttering mindset, in fact, to eliminate that and the stuttering speech that goes along with that. If you're ready to do away with that, and you're ready to finally begin to focus on the message and how you can engage people and how you can enjoy your conversations, then I want to invite you to schedule a free private consultation with me. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at where you are right now with your speech and at where you want to go. And then I'm going to tell you exactly how we can help you get there. And then it'll be up to you. So I just want to encourage you to take that step. If you're a professional and you're tired of having to worry constantly about whether or not you're going to be able to perform well, you're tired of avoiding speaking situations, you're simply tired of not being able to say the things that you want. It's almost like you're imprisoned in your own mind. You got stuff you want to say, just can't get it out. And maybe you've tried other things. And in fact, I just talked with a gentleman just the other day, and he said one of the things that he likes about this program is that we not only deal with the physical aspect of speech, but we also deal with the mental, the psychological aspect. Because for many people, it is mostly psychological. For many, not for all. For most, it's both, right? It's a little bit of both. So we have to address both things. The other thing that we deal with is helping you transform your speaking identity, to go from having a stuttering mindset, seeing yourself, believing that you're going to struggle, that you do struggle, that there are certain words in there, from being there, having that mindset, that identity, to one where you literally see, like you know, that you can say whatever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want, that you are actually an excellent speaker. You feel this, you know it. Doesn't mean that you don't get stuck sometimes, but you know that you're an excellent speaker, and other people affirm that. You see yourself that way, you believe it, and you actually perform that way. So if you would like to be there, then I want to invite you right now to book your free private consultation with me, and let's take you from wherever you are now to wherever you want to be. Just remember this. Where could you be in just 3 short months? Where could you be in 6 months or a year? Since it's 3 months. Well, somebody else said that they can do it in 3 days. Well, if somebody tells you that you can do something, you can totally transform your speech and have it stick in a few days or even a few weeks, they're not being truthful with you, because your brain simply cannot change and stay changed unless you do something, you practice it consistently over time in various speaking situations. So if I were up here telling you that this is quick and it's easy, then you'd know I'd be lying to you. But I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you it's challenging and it's going to take time. But guess what? The time's going to go by anyway. 3 months are going to go by regardless. You're going to be 3 months older. The question is, will your speech be transformed? Will it be any different? Will you be feeling more relaxed? Will you be feeling more confident? Will people be telling you, wow, you're speaking better? 6 months is going to go by. Years going to go by. Will you be able to look back and go, wow, look at where I was a year ago. Look at where I'm at now. That's the only question. So I want to invite you to schedule that free consultation with me, and I'm super excited about working with you. Let's just see you in 3 months and have you smiling and going, wow, man, I feel so much more relaxed. One of my clients just told me, I feel so much more relaxed. I sleep better. I'm able to dream better. I feel better about myself. I'm able to be more social and engage people instead of avoiding people. If you're ready for that, book your free consultation with me now. My name is Michael Williams. Look forward to seeing you.